Okay, this is on. I actually recorded a full session without pressing the button to start the record. So let's try to go faster this time. This is a Play Your Damn Turn game, which I'm going to review quickly. Play Your Damn Turn is a third-party app which lets you play Civ6 or other Civ games asynchronously, which means you play your turn, you save the game gets sent to the next player, which can play 8 hours later, immediately, 3 months later if he wishes, ideally not. Which is played with the mod pack DB Gold something, which goes with a lot of options, which I'm gonna try to describe the most important ones very quickly. Without BBG BBS, which is better balanced game, better balanced starts, which are usually very common in games like this, in multiplayer games all in all. Off the top of my head, there are quite a few changes, but the most noteworthy is you cannot condemn heretic on religious units anymore, and the goals that were here actually had a very strong shot at a religious victory, which I tried very hard to defend against because of this. All great merchants give 1 trade route capacity, which in my opinion is a very bad change, and which helped me win quite a lot. Great merchants are already too strong without this. Theater squares receive a bit of adjacency from appeal on the tiles. Not a very great change in my opinion. And I think that's all. Some policies get changed, but I did not notice such great change. We were assigned random leaders across a pool of something like 5 maybe, picked at random. I actually picked the goals, but something happened during the game creation that messed it up, and instead I received Suleiman Magnificient, and the Suleiman Magnificent player received the goals, which is fine. Suleiman gets science and culture when in the golden age. My classical was in the golden age, which was quite hard to pull off, but which I managed mostly by getting monuments a bit earlier than I would like, which means I'm the first one to civic into classical era, the first one to assume a tier 1 government, which is 5 era score just by itself. Then my medieval era was normal, which is bad for everyone. Suleiman gets 4 combat strength if you are in a normal age, but only against people that are not in a golden age, and in my case all my neighbors were in a golden age. Sucks to be me. So I had no ability for medieval era, and yet it kinda worked out. I built some siege units and I hit some districts with my siege units, but not that many. I conquered quite a few cities, as you may have noticed already, but losing population, meh. 1 ability, nice. 4 loyalty, it helps out sometimes. Indeed, I only founded 4 cities, and this is in no small part due to a very strange map. I started out with all these marshes, which did not give science yet. I think this tile was woods. All this is floodplains. So it took me quite a bit of time to get this going with production. In fact, I kept the 1 production per city policy for quite a while. I got extremely lucky with a tribal village that was somewhere around here and gave me a relic, which is 5% chance, nice, which gave me the first Pantheon. The first Pantheon in a game that is not modded with better balanced game probably should be religious settlement, which gave me a free settler, which allowed me to settle Bursa. And right off the bat, I know Bursa would be a city that would build the Etemenanki, which I delayed quite a lot, probably too much, probably that I should have dropped instantly the exact second which was allowed to be built. In any case, the Temenanki was built, and the moment it was, my science basically tripled because of the setup of these floodplains, all of which I reassigned to Bursa, and the amount of marshes that I had in my capital. That's honestly basically the quickest way I could explain this game. I completed the Temenanki and it was so stupidly good that I snowballed off it. But still, let's keep going through my kit. The Grand Bazaar did not do much. I've just completed the first ones recently, and right, I probably forgot to mention I am reviewing this because the game is over. The other players have forfeited, which is very understandable, as my science and culture are stupidly ahead, and I have made thorough use of the privateers. And realistically, yeah, if you are ahead in culture and science at this point, that means you get corps, then armies, then fascism, you get planes, you get artillery, tanks, and etc. And eventually the tide cannot be stopped, especially with only 3 players left. So, back in business, the real deal breaker in my kit were the barbaric corsairs, which can coastal raid without paying any movement. Which means, for instance, very random example, if you move a barbaric corsair just 1 turn, you can pitch a theater square, amphitheater, a library, a university, a campus, without paying a single point of movement. That is not very fun for the receiving player. It is what I am receiving in another game, in fact. So, it happened. But I did not actually wage war against Japan first, I went against the Gauls, which honestly did not have that much coast to attack, to coastal raid, especially as the Gaul industrial zones cannot be pillaged by any means. But the barbaric corsairs allowed me to simply besiege this city instead, as they are unlocked quite a bit earlier than usual, which would be exploration, and they have the same combat stats as the privateers as far as I know, exactly the same. They come earlier, and since they come earlier in the medieval era, they can be improved by an admiral that is spawned in the classical era, such as this for instance, but I think I had another one. Maybe not. Whatever. So that means 55 strength range bombards from the barbaric corsairs were pounding a medieval city defense. I think the Gauls could have went for a bit more siege weapons to defend against it, because ranged units such as crossbowmen get minus 17 combat strength when shooting at naval units, which is not the case for siege units. And so I kinda grinded down the defense in here, and then I entered with my freshly upgraded musketmen. Not a lot of them though. I think I had I think I only had 1 for most of my push, with 2 trebuchets, 2 crossbowmen, but which realistically the Gaul could not fight back, especially since I had the assistance of the Vietnamese. And so it became a bit of a war of attrition that the Gauls could not win, especially as they had invested too much into faith, I think, probably trying to attempt a religious victory with the changes from the mods. While I was attacking Gauls, thanks to a setup of industrial zones with aqueducts and dams, which allowed me to mass produce corsairs without relying on the double production card, which comes later, I actually was trying to play a double game to send my fleet to the Gauls, but also to Japan. Seeing the defense of the garrison, I thought it was not worth it, and instead I started pounding a bit at Vatican City, which is what this was. Japan asked me to withdraw immediately from this city, which was they were suzerains of. I accepted, and it was quite a win-win situation because it gave me, like, it allowed me to redistribute more ships to the goals, which I probably needed in the first place to do any kind of push. I returned later like a proper shameless traitor to actually take Vatican City once I was done with the goals, which had no coast anymore of interest. And so I captured Vatican City, and at this point I did not have vision of this part of the map, but when I finished this off, I realized the lake would allow my corsairs to sneak in, pillage quite a few good tiles, and then just completely destroy the defense in this city. Which was yet another frustrating blow that the Japanese realistically could not fight against, as this was quite a far-off border city, which suddenly had to deal with 55 range strength corsairs pounding at medieval defenses units, you know? And at this point, it started being a bit out of control, especially since once I was done with the city, all my corsairs were ready to attack their capital, which is the only city they have facing this ocean. So this only city that is able to build any kind of ships to fight against me. As in fact, I spent quite a lot of time exploring until I figured out the two oceans in this game are disjointed. And realistically, I don't see canals even happening in a very hypothetical setting. I don't even know what's in here. So that means I also knew that most of Japan is probably facing the other ocean. And when I reached this city, I bought corsairs with gold right away when I could, instead of building them. That's it. And yeah, those corsairs would have reached the rest of Japan soon enough. I think that's pretty much all of interest that can be said. I grabbed all the wonders I could. This is a very decent mausoleum, especially since like I'm starting to generate quite a few engineers. Like this would have been very stupid to reach. +6 culture on workshops everywhere. Terracotta army was a bit of an extra, which helps, especially like on those corsairs. They can now move after attacking, which can allow me a few more risky pot shots at the capital. Statue of Zeus is just a bonus that I barely completed here. I think that's all. This Venetian arsenal would have been very strong, but there's no need to even complete it. Yeah, I think that's it. I've covered a bit great people, government. I tried to zerg this since I needed the card to double the speed of naval units. That's all there is. We played with corporations, as I probably said, but it did not have such a huge impact. We played with barbarian clans, which means a lot of city-states, which I have a very good coverage of, thanks to some decently easy quests. I think there's not much else that can be said. Japan actually devoured 2 players, it must be around here. I feel like the map generated all the players very close, which is part of the reason why I founded 4 cities only. Vietnam's capital is here, mine is here. Just like, see, like even this one was my 3rd city, and it was already very cocky of me to push it so far in. And the goals already had founded this at this point, so I only had this place to go, which ended up being an acceptable city, because I needed to complete the chain of zones, industrial zones. It's founded directly on a luxury resource, and those whales were not such bad tiles. I think I've got everything to say at this point. Yeah, off the top of my head also, the goals were fighting against me and Vietnam that had the +5 military strength from military alliance, and they had no such bonus themselves. I don't know if Japan was able to ally them, reach them, or just like did not want to. They wanted to stall a bit until they were able to build a fleet. But that was no small part in us winning. Like the +5 military strength from the alliance is too strong, and it's the same in BBG as far as I know. So it's not even because of the mods or lack of mods at this point. Not much else I see of interest that can be said. Just technology. I did not go for any big B lines, some of which might have happened in other games. I think I'm gonna cut off at this. Thank you for watching if you bothered, and probably I will be doing this for maybe other games when I reach the end of them. Even if it's a defeat, I have in mind one of my games that I am most likely going to be crushed on, and I will comment it nonetheless. It's a bit of an awkward game, not gonna lie. There's so few districts in spite of how populous my cities are, because of the terrible spawn, which ended up in a gold spawn the moment the Yetemenanki was found. Anyway, peacing out.